Today I thought I'd start by mounting the battery tray, the existing tray. You can see where bolts were mounting it, one there, there, and there, and I think this one is still showing underneath. And so I'm going to drill that. I got to drill a hole here for the grill mount, where these fasteners and stuff. This battery tray even came with new little metal clips. All the top. So I'm going to try and get that located, and I'm not going to bolt it in secure. I'm just going to get all the holes drilled and ready. And then I thought, before I mount the tray up in there, I was thinking of some of this weld you can still see with the tray out. With the tray in, you really can't see it, but I thought I'd put a little filler in just the edges here, just to kind of neaten that up a little bit. And just try and make it look as good as possible. This is a metal etching zinc chromate primer, which I'll eventually prime both the inner fenders with. The frame I'll do with Rust-Oleum rusty metal primer, but I got to finish cleaning the frame up. I still got a lot more to do on the frame, but I think these inner fender wells are ready for primer and paint, and I'll just I gotta wipe them down. I'm not even gonna start priming them until I'm done with the frame, because otherwise I gotta wait for the primer to set up before I can start stirring up dust. So I'm just gonna drill some holes and then start sanding the frame out. So another thing I want to do is put this back in before I paint, so I don't scratch things up putting it in, but I wanted to show how good it works now. No more noise. I just put a dab RTV on that hole on the back. I made sure it didn't go in the hole. I just put just a dab on there. That totally did the job. Originally this this probably doesn't show up, but there was nuts that were in the sheet metal, mounted in the sheet metal, so you didn't have to get underneath with a wrench. And I have some of them. And I'm just going to bolt them in and go underneath and weld them to the bottom of the tray, just so it comes in and out a little easier. And I don't mean welding them to the bottom of this, I mean welding them to the bottom of this. I'll put the bolt through, go underneath the car, start this, tighten it up, get it where I want it located, and then I'll just tack it on, on each side, just so you can run the bolts in and out without having to, have two people to get it in and out. Alright, there's a bracket that goes from here to here that's somewhere hidden in the trunk. It was with the old battery stuff. One of these, and the rusted out tray, and the one that was here was the one that had just like a bracket that just went down and attached to here, a steel piece bolted here and here. With the battery, just wanted to mount it, make sure it all fit good, and it does. So I'm going to take the battery and tray out until I'm ready to install it now. That heater blower fan was a lot easier putting back in than taking out. And now I'm going to power it up a little bit, and we'll see how it sounds now that it's installed. Sounds pretty good. With the towel on the windshield, there's zero light coming in, but you can sure hear the heater fan smooth now. Need to vacuum. Haven't done anything in the car in a while, and I pulled out that AC unit, and a lot of that stuff blew out when I turned the fan on, but yeah, it runs nice and smooth. In installing the heater core, I found some of this stuff that I had. Generally there's a caulking between the motor and this, and I found it's this stuff right here. It's like a putty almost type of caulk. But I've had this forever from when I worked in the Ford dealers. This stuff just lasts a long time, and still got quite a bit left. I'm starting to remove the front bumper, and I don't want it to hit the floor, so I've got this old ancient crank bumper jack that I'm using to support the bumper, and there's 2 bolts here and 2 bolts here. Now I know why those are there. Those clips hold these nuts inside the frame. Those clips hold the nuts for the sway bar bracket in the frame. So now I know what those are for. They're on both sides, and yeah, I was wondering what they were. And I'll show you a little bit of something here. These bumpers are easily adjustable because they got a cam bolt, much like what you see on a lot of GM cars, front end alignment stuff. It allows you to tilt the bumper, so that makes it nice to line it up. You know, you can just do it with a wrench. All the fasteners are out for the bumper. That still has paint. These will clean up nice. The brackets will clean up nice. I'll have the bumper re-chromed, but the bumper is just sitting there on the jack, so I'm going to lower it down, bring it out from under the vehicle, and I need both hands to do that. So while the bumper's off, I'll get these brackets off, have them, I'll bead blast them. I mean, look at that. They're in really nice shape still. Back of the bumper's in good shape, so I'll bead blast these and paint them, and this way I can paint all this up. I can get to those to change those strut bushings, and I can clean the frame up in here a little better to paint the bumper off. And it almost looks like if they painted this, they got a good job of getting the body color down there, but where I sanded it off here, it looks like a silver, and if you look at the underside, it looks like a silver too. Well, you know, so I don't know, we'll see. I'll look into it a little further when I sand this. That'll make the final determination. But where I did sand it there, it looks like it's a silver. And I got to grind those welds and get this all sanded out and start priming. But that'll make it a heck of a lot easier. Get these out, I can bead blast down the buckets. Get it all looking really nice. I mean, there's still a lot of paint left on a lot of this. It's just once you clean the dirt off, the paint's there. And there is surface rust, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of that, but it's not heavy rust. It just cleans right off. These look pretty cut and dry to get out. Got a lot of screws. Whoops, don't want to lose them. Just everything unbolts on this car. I haven't had very few, other than the alternator and one exhaust manifold stud, the front alternator bearing, and I've been doing pretty good. So now I can clean that all up like new and paint it, and I can paint all this in here. And now you can see into that inner fender. And that is all nice and clean and solid in there. And I can get in there and paint when I paint the inner fenders. So now I can clean that up nice. That'll be super nice. Make it so much easier to paint it up. I'm going to pull the other one out. I have to pull this little piece of trim. I think there's a nut behind here too. But I'll get those off too. But I'm going to pull the other headlight bucket out now. And then we got the other headlight bucket out. And again, you can see how nice and clean that is in there. Yeah, the light's poor, but you get the picture. I can pull these emblems off that I got new ones. Yeah, that's going to look awesome painted up. I still don't see any of the original paint. You know, I thought maybe back in here, unless that is, I don't think that all looks like the repaint paint that I'm looking at. So that's definitely this color, and this is not the original shade. This and this match, but we'll figure out what the original color of that. I'm almost thinking it was body color, but we'll find out when I look at these tabs back here and stuff. And yeah, one thing I have to say, Ford made things. Of all the big three, I've done them all. Fords are generally the easiest to work on. They're common sense and assembly, I guess, to cut costs at the assembly plant. They're very simple to take apart and put together. And if any of you are wondering, this old jack here, ancient jack, is a Saginaw. I don't think they're saying numbers legible on that or anything. And I've had this thing, God, probably since I bought the Chevy. A friend of my dad's gave it to me. I've probably had it 40 plus years, but it's a nice, I mean, it works good. It has its purpose. I don't use it a lot, but when I need it, like for something like this, it's awesome. Now I got this bumper off. Probably in the next couple of weeks I'll pull the rear bumper, the interior trim, and the two levers and get them off to the chrome plater. I got to straighten the rear bumper just a smidge. It has a dent in it right here, and it's pushed in just a little bit because of that. So I'll try and straighten the rear bumper out before I take that. But I'm going to have the bumpers and then that interior trim. The trim around the inside of the windshield here is all chrome, and it's not in good shape, and the levers need to be, the turn signal just unscrews. You know, that's takes 2 seconds to take this lever off, and then I'll you know, I can get them all. And then there's one of those roll pin things that hold the shift lever in, and it's probably not too poor lighting, but just knock it out with a punch. But check that new steering wheel horn ring out. That looked nice. I put it on just so it wouldn't get damaged, and I cleaned up the steering wheel. Why the horn ring, you know, I actually took the steering wheel off the car because the steering wheel wasn't installed on the, there's an index mark on the steering shaft and an index mark on the steering wheel. And it's important to have those two lined up. You want your steering gear centered. You don't want to, if you're driving down the road and your steering wheel's like that, you don't want to just take your steering wheel off and center it, because your steering gear is no longer centered. And a lot of you might think, well, that's no big deal. Well, the problem is steering gears have less play when they're centered than when they're off center. So if your steering gear is over here, your steering wheel is going to have more play going straight down the road than if it was here. It might, you know, be like this. So it's imperative that you have your steering gear centered, and then adjust your tie rod end sleeves to adjust the toe to center, you know, so you have a centered steering wheel. So always make sure your index and your steering shaft lines up with the steering wheel, and the steering wheel is centered, so your steering gear is centered, and then your car will handle better going down the road. And that is one thing I'm going to start working on once I get, once I get the frame primed. And I don't know if I'm going to do that this weekend or not, because I got a lot of, we had 50 degrees and rain yesterday and wind, and it's only 30 and windy now, but I got a whole load of people want their yards, you know, people need their yards cleaned up. So I'm going to be doing that for this next 4 or 5 days. So this might not get painted until after Thanksgiving. You know, well, it's got to make a little bit extra money to put into this car. And I did put some filler on these welds, and that's where these gloves come in nice. The finger, you don't get it on your fingers. The thinner you can put it on, the less sanding you have to do, and the better it turns out. So I just smeared on with my finger and over a little bit of the welds that had some pits and some of the pits from the rust, And then there was those two weld dimples that you could just still barely see that bothered me. So I just thought, well, we'll take care of that. And you can see the primer through the filler there. So that's metal etching primer. And I always like to metal etch prime before I put filler on. It just seems to adhere better. Yeah, it's starting to come apart more than what I expected, but you can still see a lot of paint on this too, but I can take this all apart, or take the latch and the whatnot off and bead blast all this and paint it up nice and pretty too. And I can get it all this a little easier. Just makes it a little nice. I'm not going to take any more apart. I've taken more apart than what I intended to, but I want to sand this out really nice and paint it nice, nice satin black. So yeah, I had to take it apart that far anyway, even though I didn't want to. So took those little rubber bumpers off there too, so I can sand down in there and just try and make it look nice. I'm going to be sanding the rest of the day, so I don't know if I'll be doing much more videoing, because it's be pretty boring just watching me move a piece of sandpaper across the metal. But I'm gonna, you gotta do by hand to get into all these little nooks and crannies. This side has the holes because this is where the battery sat. The air could move through there to help keep the battery cool. That side did not have a battery. So I went and raided my sandpaper hoard for some more. This is just 80 grit aluminum oxide. This is all stuff from estate sales. I have a couple big, huge Tupperware bins full of probably 200 pounds of sandpaper sitting out. Every time I go to an estate sale and I see, decent lots of sandpaper, if it's cheap, I just buy it. I mean, I restore stuff, and not just cars, but a lot of different stuff. So, it's nice to have plenty of sandpaper. When you go to the auto parts or home improvement store or hardware or wherever and buy your sandpaper, it's quite expensive. So I probably literally save thousands of dollars over the year just in sandpaper. I also want to thank all my tubers that watch. All the people watching my videos is actually bringing in decent income on them. Most of the videos have had 12 or 14 or sometimes more views, and I've been getting on average about $300 a month, $400 a month. Some months are better than others, like when I had Dave's Buick Electra, they had, 40 or 50,000 views. So yeah, that one was almost $600 that month. So that does help, and all that money I make from YouTube, I put into the Galaxie. So far I haven't had to dip into savings. I put a budget of $10,000 on this car. I want to do it under $10,000, including what I paid for it. And right now I'm on track with that. I just kind of figured out what major things I have left. I'll probably be touching $9,000 by the time the car is done. This is very time consuming. I'm probably going to be here all day just on the radiator core support. You get all these little, when they stamp them, they're not stamped, like a fender. They're kind of, you can see, all the imperfections. They weren't too fond of making sure this stuff was perfect, like the body. Like you can see dye marks from where the dye came down, crinkles here from, just because it's a heavier gauge steel with all the multiple bends. So yeah, this is a lot more work sanding this kind of stuff out than a fender. So yeah, but at the end of the day, it looks good. When you're all painted up and done. And so I just got to kind of work at it. And I'm not, like I say, I'm not going to do a lot of video of it. I'm just going to plug away at sanding here. And I'm not going to keep the camera out because this fine dust goes, I can see it on the tripod and the top of the camera. So I'm going to turn it off and put the camera away. Let's show up. These are paint runs. And the runs are going this way. So this was obviously hanging up the other way up when Ford painted it. And apparently they weren't too particular about how the finish turned out because there's some big runs in the paint all over the place. And then there's some numbers that 413. There's numbers on the other side too. But they're stamped from the other side, so you'd see them more from the other side. But a lot of these panels have digits stamped in them. Getting it sanded out all right. There's just a lot of sanding dust on there, and then there's black paint on there too. So it'll wipe down with some solvent, some thinner, lacquer thinner. It'll look like that. And I'm just not going to do anything to it until I get done sanding. Then I can completely clean out the garage, and then I'll wipe this down. Right now I'm doing, hang on, this is what I'm doing now. Just got to get in here and sand everything out. You know, it's just time consuming. I'm gonna, whoops, sorry about knocking the tripod there. I'm gonna sand the frame all out. This actually cleans up really quick and easy, the frame does. It seems like the heavy steel cleans up easier than the sheet metal. Cleans up quite nice, quite easily. Just realized these are in my way, so I might pop them off. I got new bushings for them, new rubber for these. So they're all going to come off anyway, so I might as well take them off. I can throw them in these in the blast cabinet. This is too long. I'll just sand that bar and paint it. It's spring steel, so it'll clean up easy. Well, I got a lot more sanded out. I sanded this filler and over there. Yeah, there is a lot of sanding dust on everything. I'm just not cleaning it up until I'm done. So I got a lot done today. I feel it was a productive day. Worked on the car about 9 hours today. I got the sway bar out too, and just makes it a little easier. And I'm going to take the strut rods out because I got new rubber for them. And so I think I got about another day, solid day, like another 9-hour day of sanding. I want to clean the undercarriage all the way to the differential and paint when I paint the engine compartment and when I paint the firewall and the frame and everything. That's all going to be the same color. I'm going to paint all the way to the differential, and then I'll paint from there on when I tear into the rear brakes, and you know, and I'll check out the rear control arm bushings and stuff too, and I got to replace the rear springs and shocks and whatnot, you know, so I can paint from there on. When I at a later date I can put the engine and transmission in and then clean that up and paint that, you know, as time goes on. But the main thing is get the engine compartment, chassis, everything ready for paint here, and then you know, it's just a lot of work. And I cleaned all the seam sealer out of here, and you can see how it was painted black right to there. So I'll probably do the same thing again. Looks like there was green under this black, but it was like right to there. So I'm gonna get, I'm out of seam sealer, so I'll get some and I'll reseal the seam there. That's the VIN number right there. And get that all sealed up and painted and looking good. It's coming along really well. So I got, like I say, another solid 9-hour or 10-hour day of sanding, and then I'll clean the mess up so I can start painting. Well, as you can see, I am super dirty, so I'm going to call it a day. Look at my dumpy sweater, which is just about ruined. And anyway, it's a day, and if you like my video, hit the like button. If you want to see this car all this nice and pretty again, with the 352 sitting here where I'm standing, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching my video.